What would you do if a 9-year-old kid in taped-up boots told you he could heal your child, and somehow he was right? It was a cold morning in Easton City, not cold enough for snow, but every breath turned white, every fingertip burned. Families rushed in and out of the children's hospital on River Street, scarves pulled tight, coffee cups steaming, moving fast like speed itself could erase the pain. But one boy wasn't moving. He sat on a flattened cardboard box near the glass doors, sketching quietly in a weathered notebook. His name was Eli Monroe, just 9 years old, coat too big, sleeves rolled up, one boot patched with duct tape, a faded red beanie pulled low. He didn't beg, didn't ask for help, he just sat there watching people come and go, always watching. Most weekends, Eli was in that same spot. At first staff tried to send him away, but after a while they stopped. He never caused trouble, he smiled if someone spoke, and when he wasn't sketching, his eyes followed everything. Some thought maybe his mom was inside, maybe a sick sibling, maybe just waiting for a ride, but nobody asked too many questions in a place like that. Across the street, a silver SUV idled by a fire hydrant, engine humming, but the driver didn't move. Inside sat Daniel Harper, late 40s, sharp jawline, temples gone gray, tie loose, shirt creased. You could see the money in the shine of his car, but his face told another story, a man running out of strength. In the back seat, a booster chair held his daughter Lila, 6 years old, brown curls tucked behind one ear, legs curled under a pink blanket. Her eyes wide open, yet silent. The accident had changed everything. One moment she was climbing trees, racing cousins barefoot in the yard, the next she was paralyzed from the waist down. Daniel opened the back door, lifted her carefully, and walked toward the entrance. He didn't notice Eli at first, most people didn't. But Eli noticed him. He saw the way Daniel carried her like she might break, the way her gaze stayed fixed on the sky, refusing the building ahead. Eli stood, notebook tucked under his arm, and called out softly, "Sir, I can make your daughter walk again." Daniel froze mid-step, not because it was a joke, not because it was a scam, but because of how those words were spoken. Calm, steady, certain. Daniel turned, eyes narrowing. "What did you just say?" Eli didn't flinch. "I can help her walk again." Daniel held Lila tighter. "That's not funny, kid. I'm not joking." His voice didn't shake, no smile, no doubt, just a stillness far too old for a 9-year-old boy. Daniel's eyes dropped to Eli's torn coat, the taped boot, the cracked glasses hanging from his collar. This had to be coincidence, maybe even a scam. He turned, walked inside, and said nothing. But he couldn't shake it, the way the boy had spoken, not with hope, not with fear, like it was already true. And that voice, steady and impossible, was going to keep pulling at him until he came back. Have you ever experienced something that felt impossible, but stayed in your mind like it was real? Share your story in the comments, and tell us where you're watching from. Daniel tried to push the boy from his mind, but for hours he sat through Lila's appointments, nodding as doctors and therapists repeated the same phrases. Long road ahead, manage expectations, miracles take time. He had heard it all before, and yet Eli's words wouldn't leave him. "I can make your daughter walk again." By early afternoon, Daniel carried Lila out of the building. The sun broke through the clouds, but the air was still sharp. He walked toward the car holding her close, then he saw him again. Same box, same notebook, only this time Eli was staring right at him, like he had been waiting all along. Daniel hesitated, glancing down at Lila, her head resting on his shoulder, eyes closed, her body far too light for her age. "You again," Daniel muttered. "Why would you say something like that? You think this is funny?" Eli shook his head slowly. "No, sir, you don't even know her." Daniel lowered Lila gently into the back seat. "You don't know what she's been through. You don't know what we've been through." "I don't have to know her to help," Eli answered calmly. Daniel straightened, frustration in his voice. "You're what, 9? Almost 10. You're just a boy outside a hospital with tape on your shoes. What could you possibly know about helping my daughter?" Eli looked down, fingers tracing the edge of his notebook. "My mama used to help people walk again. She was a physical therapist. She taught me things. She said the body remembers, even when it forgets for a while." Daniel scoffed, doubt hardening in his chest. So you watched her do some stretches, and now you think you're a doctor? I watched her help a man stand after 5 years in a chair, Eli replied, lifting his eyes. She didn't have machines or nurses, just her hands, patience, and faith. Daniel opened his mouth, then stopped. A nurse walked by and gave Eli a small wave. A janitor nodded in his direction. Daniel froze. They all seemed to know him. I'm not giving you money, Daniel said firmly. I didn't ask for money. Then what do you want? Eli drew a breath, stepping closer. Just 1 hour, let me show you. Daniel turned to Lila. Her eyes were open now, quietly watching both of them. He rubbed the bridge of his nose, torn. I should walk away right now. I should call security. But Eli didn't move, didn't say a word. Finally Daniel sighed. Fine, you want to waste your time, kid. Meet us at Lincoln Park tomorrow, noon. Don't be late. Eli nodded once. I'll be there. Daniel climbed into the SUV, started the engine, pulled away without looking back. But in the rearview mirror, Eli was still standing there, hands at his sides, face unreadable. Later that night, Daniel sat in his office, papers scattered across the desk. None of them made sense. All he saw was the way Eli had stood, like he knew something Daniel didn't. Daddy, a soft voice called. Daniel turned. Yeah, baby. Who was that boy? Just somebody we met outside the hospital. He looked like he believed it, she whispered. Believed what? That I could walk. Daniel stared at her, lips parting in silence. She gave the smallest smile and tapped her fingers across the armrest like tiny walking legs. Daniel didn't smile back, because for the first time in months, something inside him didn't feel numb. It felt dangerous, it felt like hope. Lincoln Park wasn't much, a cracked basketball court, 2 squeaky swings, a patch of grass pretending to be a soccer field. On Sundays it was usually empty, especially at noon. But that day, Eli was already there, sitting on the bench under the old oak tree, same oversized jacket, notebook tucked away. Eli had a small gym bag at his feet, and a folded towel laid neatly on the bench beside him. At 12:07 Daniel's SUV pulled up. He didn't speak at first. He just lifted Lila from the car, set her gently in her chair, and wheeled her over to where Eli sat, his arms crossed tight, like he already regretted being there. Eli stood when they arrived. Hi again, he said politely. Daniel gave a stiff nod. Lila lifted her hand in a shy wave. Hi, Lila, Eli smiled. Her eyes brightened a little. Hi. Daniel raised an eyebrow. How do you know her name? You said it yesterday, Eli replied. I remember things. Daniel didn't respond. He just gestured at the towel. So what now, magic carpet ride? Eli ignored the jab. No sir, just the basics. He opened the bag and pulled out a pair of socks, a tennis ball, a small jar of cocoa butter, and a cloth bundle still warm with rice inside. Daniel squinted. What is all that? My mom's tools, Eli answered calmly. The rice is for heat. It helps loosen muscles. The ball is for pressure points. Daniel folded his arms again, still guarded. Eli turned to Lila. If it's okay, can I work with your legs for a while? Nothing hurts, I promise. If anything feels strange, just say stop. Okay, she whispered, glancing up at her dad. Daniel sighed. You can try, just be careful. Eli knelt by her chair. He unwrapped the blanket from her legs and placed the warm rice pack across her thighs. Too hot? He asked. She shook her head. It feels good. Eli nodded and waited. After a few minutes he began to gently guide her legs, not pulling, not forcing, just slow movements side to side, up and down. Daniel watched closely, ready to stop him if anything went wrong, but nothing did. You ever do this before? Daniel asked, suspicion in his voice. My mama used to take me to shelters after school, Eli said softly. She helped veterans, people who couldn't afford therapy, said everybody deserves to feel human again. I used to carry her bag. Daniel raised an eyebrow. And she taught you this stuff? Yeah, she said the body doesn't always need fancy, sometimes it just needs attention. He tapped gently on Lila's knee. You feel that? No, she whispered. That's okay, Eli nodded. I'll keep asking. He kept talking to her while working, asked about her favorite colors, favorite food, the shows she liked to watch. At first her answers were short, but then she started asking him questions. Do you live around here? Kind of. Do you go to school? I used to. Why not anymore? Eli hesitated. My mom got sick, then she passed. I've been figuring things out since. I'm sorry, Lila said quietly. Thanks, Eli gave her a small smile. Daniel's posture softened, but he stayed silent, though his eyes never left the boy's hands. After about 30 minutes, Eli tapped her ankle gently. You feel that? Lila blinked, a little, like pressure. Eli looked up at Daniel. That's good. Daniel narrowed his eyes, unsure, because for the first time he didn't know if the boy was bluffing, or if something real was happening right in front of him. She sometimes says that during her regular sessions, Daniel muttered. Yeah, Eli replied softly, but those sessions are in rooms full of machines. Sometimes kids get scared of machines, their bodies tighten up, but here, he gestured at the open park, there's air, trees, it feels different. Daniel stayed quiet, but he was listening now. Eli helped Lila stretch both legs, then guided her through small movements with her toes, just little wiggles. She tried, nothing obvious happened, but she didn't look discouraged. I'll show you again next week, Eli said as he stood. It takes time, but your muscles, he pointed to her thighs, they still remember how to be used, you just have to remind them. Lila smiled wider this time. Okay. Daniel cleared his throat. We're not promising anything. I'm not either, Eli nodded. I'm just trying. Daniel studied him for a moment, then reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a folded bill. He held it out. Eli stepped back. No, sir, I don't want your money. Daniel looked surprised. Then why are you doing this? Eli shrugged. Because your daughter smiled. Daniel looked down at Lila. She was still smiling. But he couldn't understand how a boy who had lost everything could give so much to a girl he barely knew. The next Sunday was warmer, but Eli still wore his jacket, not because he needed it, but because it made him feel close to his mom. She used to call it his helper's coat, said every good healer needed something that reminded them why they care. He was already at Lincoln Park by 11:45, towel laid out, supplies ready, water bottle beside him. A few kids played basketball on the cracked court, a dog barked somewhere in the distance. At exactly noon Daniel's SUV rolled up. Lila was grinning before the car even stopped. Eli waved. Hi, Lila. Hi, she chirped, curls bouncing as Daniel helped her into the chair. Daniel looked tired again, but lighter somehow. He gave Eli a small nod, no words, but more than the week before. Eli got to work, same setup, same warm rice pack, but something was different this time. Lila was trying. Can you press your heel into the ground? He asked gently. She closed her eyes, concentrating. Nothing happened. It's okay, he said calmly. Sometimes your brain needs time to find the path. It's like trying to walk through a crowd. You just keep pushing until you make it through. Daniel stood behind them, arms crossed again, but this time it looked more like he was keeping warm than building walls. Why do you do this? He asked suddenly. Eli glanced up. Because I remember what it felt like when my mom helped people. She made them feel like they mattered. I want to do that too. Daniel nodded slowly. You ever think about doing something else? Sometimes, Eli said softly, but this feels right. Daniel looked at Lila. She was tapping her toes, barely, but they moved. For the first time he didn't say anything, he just watched. The next few weekends, they kept coming, same time, same place. Eli taught Lila to use rubber bands to strengthen her ankles. He rolled tennis balls under her feet, helping her brain remember where they were. He showed Daniel how to press gently behind her knees, explaining how every nerve had a job, even when it went quiet. Then came the bad day, the fourth Sunday. Eli showed up like always, but when the SUV pulled in, Lila wasn't smiling, her eyes were red. Daniel looked angry. She doesn't want to do it today, he said sharply, lifting her into the chair. Lila refused to look at either of them. Eli stepped closer, carefully. What happened? Lila crossed her arms. I tried to move my legs this morning and nothing happened. Nothing. I'm tired of trying. It's pointless. Daniel turned away, jaw tight. She's been frustrated all weekend. Eli nodded. He lowered himself beside her chair again. You think I never get tired? She didn't answer. You think I never sat in a shelter and cried when my mom couldn't afford her medicine, and I had to just sit there and watch, Eli whispered. Lila's eyes shifted toward him. You're allowed to be mad. I'm mad sometimes too, but if you stop now, the part of you that wants to walk might stop trying too. She stared at the ground. I don't want you to give up, Eli said softly, because I haven't. Silence. Then Lila whispered, I'm scared. Daniel turned. It was the first time she had said those words out loud. Eli leaned closer. I am too, but scared doesn't mean stop. It just means you're close to something big. Lila wiped her face. Okay, let's try again. And they did. Eli guided her through the motions gently, less talking this time, more patience. Daniel stepped in too, helping her shift weight, encouraging every twitch. After 30 minutes, Lila moved her right foot, not just a toe. Her whole foot slid forward, slow and stiff, but it moved. Daniel dropped to his knees beside her, blinking like he wasn't sure he had seen it right. Do it again, he said quickly. She did. Eli smiled, but didn't speak. He just sat back and watched. Later that night, Daniel stood outside his house on Maple Ridge Drive, staring at the moon. He had stopped asking himself who Eli really was. The question didn't matter anymore. Inside, Lila was giggling, retelling the foot slide moment to her aunt on speakerphone. For the first time in 6 months, their home didn't feel like a hospital room. It felt alive again. But something inside Daniel had started to shift too, not just his daughter's legs. The weight in his chest, the guilt, the pride, the wall he had built between himself and the world, it was cracking. Monday afternoon, Daniel sat in his office staring at an untouched contract. His phone buzzed with emails and client updates, but none of it felt urgent anymore. What replayed in his mind was that moment in the park, Lila's foot sliding forward, like it belonged to her again. And the person who had made it happen was a 9-year-old with taped-up boots, a boy no one seemed to know. He opened a browser and typed Eli Monroe Easton City. Nothing real came up, just scraps and old newsletters, mentions of Eli and his mother Dana Monroe at a community clinic. No address, no recent trace. Daniel shut the laptop and leaned back. The boy was a ghost, except he wasn't. By Saturday, they were back at Lincoln Park, but something felt different. Daniel brought an extra mat and a fold-out chair. When they arrived, he placed a sandwich beside Eli's bag, didn't say a word about it. Eli gave a quiet thanks and tucked it away. Ready, Lila? He asked. She raised a big thumbs up. Let's do it. They slipped into the routine, heat packs, stretches, toe flexes. This time Daniel joined in fully. He sat cross-legged on the grass, following every motion Eli explained. He even messed up once. You're bending the wrong way, Eli grinned. Daniel shot him a side-eye. I haven't stretched since college. They laughed. Even Lila joined in. About 20 minutes in, Eli leaned forward. All right, Lila, let's try something different. He pulled a belt from his bag and placed it under her knees, showing Daniel how to hold each end. She's going to try lifting both knees now, just a little. We help balance her. She controls the movement. Daniel blinked. You sure? Eli nodded. She's ready. They gave her a few seconds. Her brow tightened, her eyes narrowed. She grunted softly, and her knees lifted just a little, barely an inch, but they lifted. Daniel froze, eyes wide. You did that. Lila smiled, breathless. I did it. He swallowed hard. You really did it. Eli nodded slowly, eyes still on the belt. See, the body remembers. You just have to be patient enough to let it talk. Daniel looked at him, shaking his head. You're something else, kid. Eli didn't answer. He just kept guiding Lila gently into the next stretch. After the session, while packing up, Daniel crouched beside him. Where do you go after this? Eli shrugged. Around. Daniel lowered his voice. You got a place to sleep? Eli hesitated, then whispered, sometimes. Daniel let out a long breath, rubbing the back of his neck. You ever think about coming to stay with us for a while? Eli's eyes widened. You serious? I've got a guest room. You wouldn't be in the way. Eli looked down at his hands. You sure your neighbors wouldn't mind a kid like me? Daniel chuckled. Man, after what you've done for my daughter, they better not say a word. The next morning, Eli stood outside Daniel's house, backpack slung over one shoulder, a rolled blanket under his arm. Daniel opened the door in sweatpants, coffee mug in hand, right on time. Lila ran to the hallway. Eli. He smiled. Hey, superstar. Daniel stepped aside. Welcome home. The days that followed were quiet, but meaningful. Eli had his own room now, a soft bed, clean sheets, a small desk. He didn't talk much, but he never missed a morning stretch with Lila. She was moving both feet now, not walking yet, but the wheels were turning, her brain reaching out, remembering the connection to her legs. One night, as Daniel washed dishes, he paused at the sink. Eli, he said over his shoulder, you ever think about going back to school? Eli looked up from his sketchbook at the kitchen table. Sometimes. Daniel nodded. You're smart, you could go far. Eli tilted his head. I want to help people walk again, like my mom did. Daniel turned fully to him. Then let's figure out how to get you there. Eli smiled faintly. Okay. They didn't say much more that night. They didn't need to. For the first time in years, the Harper household wasn't heavy with silence. It was filled with small sounds that meant life, footsteps, scribbles, laughter, healing. It started with a nurse from the children's hospital. She was walking her dog through Lincoln Park one Sunday morning and noticed a familiar face, Lila. She hadn't seen her outside her chair in months, let alone smiling, lifting her knees, moving her toes. And right beside her was that same quiet boy who used to sit by the hospital doors every weekend. The nurse didn't interrupt, she just watched from a distance. Later she told her sister, who worked in patient services. A few days later, a physical therapist stopped Daniel in the hallway. Hey, I heard Lila's improving, that true? Daniel nodded. Yeah, thanks to someone we weren't expecting. Word spread quickly. The next Sunday, when they arrived at Lincoln Park, 2 other families were waiting near the old oak tree. One had a boy using a walker, the other a girl recovering from a stroke. Both parents had heard the story of the kid who helped the Harper girl move her legs again. Eli turned to Daniel, eyes searching. Daniel looked right back at him. You don't have to, he said quietly. Eli adjusted the strap of his bag. I want to. That day, he gave up his usual time with Lila to work with the 2 new kids. He showed their parents how to use towel stretches, how to warm the rice packs just right, how to encourage without pushing too hard. And he spoke to the kids, not at them. You're not broken, he told one boy softly, you're just learning a different way to be strong. Lila sat in her chair watching, hands folded in her lap. She didn't complain once. Later, in the car ride home, she whispered, I like watching him help people. Daniel glanced at her through the rearview mirror. Yeah, he said with a small smile, yeah, it makes me feel like I'm part of something good. By the next weekend, 5 families showed up. The weekend after, it was more. A local pastor brought folding chairs, a diner dropped off bagels and coffee. Flyers appeared around the neighborhood, free movement classes, Sundays at noon, Lincoln Park. They never mentioned Eli's name, but everyone knew. A local reporter arrived with a notepad and camera. Daniel pulled Eli aside. You okay with this? Eli looked around at the families, the kids moving their limbs, at Lila laughing with a girl using a walker. He nodded slowly. As long as it's not about me, it's about them. The article ran in the Easton City Post under the headline, 9-year-old with a gift helps dozens heal in a city park. They didn't print his last name. Eli asked them not to, but people found out anyway. A doctor offered to mentor him, a nonprofit asked to sponsor equipment, someone else offered tutoring. For the first time since his mother passed, people didn't just look at Eli, they saw him. But Eli never bragged. He still rolled out the same towel every Sunday, still wore the same taped-up boots, still checked in with Lila first before helping anyone else. The park that once sat empty had become a place full of movement, and a boy without a home had become the heart of something bigger than himself. 9 Sundays of towels laid on grass, of Lila's knees lifting higher, of small victories shared with strangers who now felt like family. But this Sunday was different. Eli felt it before they even arrived. The air warmer, the trees swaying slower, even Lila was quieter in the back seat, focused, like she was preparing for something. When they pulled into Lincoln Park, a small crowd was already waiting. Not loud, not flashy, just families sitting out folding chairs, therapists kneeling in front of kids, parents with hope in their eyes. And in the center, under the old oak tree, that same worn bench. Eli didn't speak, he just unpacked his bag, rolled out the towel, and looked at Lila. "You ready?" She nodded, no smile this time, just determination. Daniel wheeled her to the center of the mat. Eli knelt in front of her. "Same as before," he said gently, "we help you stand, you do the rest." Daniel placed his hands under her arms. Eli steadied her legs into place. "Okay," Eli whispered, "on 3. Lila closed her eyes. 1, 2, 3. Daniel lifted, Eli steadied, and she stood. Her legs trembled, her arms shook, but she was on her own 2 feet. The crowd fell silent. A few kids gasped. One mother covered her mouth with both hands. Lila opened her eyes slowly and whispered, "I'm standing." Eli blinked hard, voice catching, "Yeah, you are." Daniel froze like he couldn't breathe, then he let go. And she stayed up. He stepped back, hands shaking. She's doing it." Eli stepped back too, just a little. "She's been doing it." Lila took one shaky step, then another. And then, because she was 6, brave, and didn't know how to be afraid, she took a 3rd step all on her own before falling into her father's arms. Daniel caught her, laughing and crying, his hands trembling as he held her close. "You did it," he whispered, voice breaking, "you really did it." Lila turned to Eli, "You said I would." He gave her a small grin. "I said we'd try." That afternoon, nobody rushed out of the park. People stayed, talked, hugged, some even prayed. Eli sat back on the bench, watching quietly. He didn't say much, he never did. Later that night, Daniel stood in the kitchen while Eli poured cereal into a bowl. "You know, you changed everything," Daniel said softly. Eli didn't look up. "I did." Daniel walked over and placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "My daughter walked today, not because of a hospital, not because of a doctor, not because of some miracle drug. She walked because a kid with nothing decided to keep showing up, again and again, even when nobody asked him to." Eli nodded gently. "That's what my mom would have done." Daniel's throat tightened. "I wish she could have seen this." "She did," Eli said quietly. "I think she sees everything." Daniel wiped at his eyes. "Eli, you're going to change a lot of lives." Eli looked up at him, steady. "I already am." There are people in this world who may never have shiny degrees, polished resumes, or a perfect past. But they carry something greater, heart, grit, and a reason to keep showing up. Sometimes the most broken people are the ones holding the tools to help others heal. If this story moved you, don't keep it to yourself, share it. And if you know a kid like Eli, or a girl like Lila, tell them this. You matter, you're needed.